What is happening, YouTube? So we're here in beautiful Amarillo, Texas. Nice day. It's beautiful outside. Just enjoying the day. Just got done with, driving about 500 miles. And really nice day. I told you last time we're going to talk about operating a camera in manual, and then we're going to talk about night and astrophotography. But first, let's talk about how to operate the camera in manual, because that's important. Can't do night photography without that. So we got three things to think about in running in manual. You have aperture, you have ISO, and you have shutter speed. I'm just going to talk through this. I want y'all to go out and play with your own cameras and play with each to see what it does. This gives you an idea so you can go out and do this. Well, first, let's talk about aperture. Aperture is the hole in the middle of a lens. It is what allows us to control how much light comes to the lens. This would be a small aperture. This would be a large number like f/16, f/22. That's a wide open aperture. That would be f/1.8 on this lens. So the smaller the number, the bigger the hole. The bigger the number, the smaller the hole. The smaller the hole, the less light gets through. But the smaller the hole, the more is in focus away from the lens. So we call that depth of field. So you got a distance from the lens that's in focus, and then there's a distance of how much is in focus, and then behind that's out of focus. That's depth of field, and that's also controlled by the aperture. A wide open or small number will have a very small depth of field, so you'll have like your subject in focus and everything behind it and in front of your subject out of focus. And we'll get more into that later. We're not going to get that now. This is just about running the camera, and we'll get into more complicated stuff later, but that's something you just need to know. So bigger the number, smaller the hole, less light get through, more's in focus. Smaller the number, the bigger the hole is, more light comes through, less is in focus. The next step is shutter speed. Shutter speed is how long the shutter is open. It's measured in seconds or thousandths of a second. The faster the shutter speed is, the more you stop action and the sharper the image is. The slower the shutter speed is, the more time is allowed for the shutter to be open, so more things will move or blur in the image. And sometimes you want that. Also, if everything's sitting still and it's low light, that's how you get a sharp image in low light. Or if you want the lines where the lights go through the image, like cars passing by that just turned into a red or yellow light, then that would be a slow shutter speed. That would be in seconds. Or if you want everything in sharp focus, like you're shooting some guy riding a bicycle and you want it to look like you've stopped motion, that would be a fast shutter speed. That would be a thousandth of a second. Shutter speed's important because it also controls how much light gets to the sensor. So the longer shutter speed is, the more light gets to the sensor. So if we're going to shoot at night, of course we're shooting at slow shutter speeds. Slow shutter speeds also require a tripod. Always keep that in mind. If you're going to go real slow, you're going to get down into the seconds range, camera's got to be on a tripod. If you're shooting handheld with a normal lens like a 35 or a 50 and you're staying at 1/35 of a second, somewhere in there, you can do that handheld. But that's shutter speed. So the next step in all this is ISO. ISO is the digital gain of the sensor. Basically, it's the best way of describing it. It allows you to control how sensitive the sensor is to light. Old days we had film. You bought film in the film speed, which was 100, 200, 300 ASA or ISO. Now we can go frame by frame and change that with a digital camera, which is great, because it used to be you had to shoot the whole roll of film in that same speed. Well, now we could change that every time we go to shoot a picture. But at the same point in time, there's some limitations. The lower the ISO number is, the more light you will need. On a bright sunny day, you can shoot around 100 to 400 ISO, and it's going to be no problem. Now, on a dark night or something like that, the ISO is going to climb up. You may get as high as 6400 according to how your camera works and how well it can handle it. But as you climb up in those numbers, you get sensor noise. You get these dots that show up in the image, grain, the colors look a little and it gets worse as the numbers get bigger. You get up about 12,800, up in the 24,000s, and it gets kind of really rough looking. So always keep that in mind. Try to keep your ISO as low as you can to get the image you're wanting. That's how you get a nice clean image. Everything's sharp, the colors are nice, there's not a lot of grain. So that's ISO. Now, all three of these work together. That's what you need. That's the whole key to all this. Inside your camera, there's a meter. And I don't know if you can see it on this or not. Let's see. I don't know if you can see it, but on this gate, there's a meter right here. And it's basically it's a bar graph. It has a 0 in the middle and has ticks to either side. Going to the right side, it goes to a plus. The left side, it goes to a minus on this Nikon. Well, the minus gets darker, the plus gets lighter. Basically, so you got to remember in your head. Straight up and down is a good exposure for the most part. Sometimes on a real bright day, you want to expose it a little to the dark side. That way you could protect your highlights. And sometimes on a dark day, you might want to expose it a little to the light side. So those are things you want to remember. So all this works together. So if I change my shutter speed, I've also got to change the ISO, and I got to change my aperture. Change the aperture is the same way. So let's just say I'm going out and it's a day like today, it's bright, sunshiny, but I don't want to, I want a real thin depth of field. I want my subject in focus, and that's it. So I'm shooting like f2.8. Well, I'm going to have to change my shutter speed and my ISO to meet that. I'll take my ISO as far down as it'll go, and my shutter speed will need to be probably pretty fast on a day like today, like 1/4000th, or if your camera will go to it 1/8000th. So you need to learn how to handle these three things. And as we move into night photography and astrophotography, you've got to know how to manually run the camera. If you're taking the camera into things it doesn't like to do, like you going in and shooting in dark rooms, inside events, you need to know how to run the camera in manual. Once you learn these, then we can look at the other modes where you have aperture and shutter priority, where you can choose the aperture or the shutter and let the camera make the rest of the decisions. But you need to know just in case, because there are going to be times you're going to get in places and it's not going to be nice. Have a place lit by candlelight or some really bad lighting, and you're going to need to know how to run the camera in manual and make the camera do what you want it to do. So remember that meter in there. If the meter's at 0, you're close. You're good. Take the picture. Even if you're a little to the dark side, if you're a stop to the dark side, take the picture. But your adjustment should get you there. And think about what the adjustments do. And go out and play with it. Go out in your backyard, walk around, go downtown. Find somewhere to walk around and play with those adjustments so you see what they do. Shoot in different conditions. Push yourself. Go shoot somewhere where it's dark. Go shoot somewhere where there's a lot of action and you got to deal with it quickly. That way you learn this and it's just second nature. You pick up the camera and you go, oh yeah, I need that, and bam. Or if you're walking down the road, you got the camera pretty close to the set, and when something happens, you just whoop, bam. That's what you want. When you climb out of the vehicle, you want to be able to climb out of the vehicle or walk downstairs or whatever you're doing, turn the corner, there's the image. You just click. It just needs to be that way. It's not hard. And that's what I want y'all to learn. This is not hard. It's easy. It's fun. And as you learn what you can do with these settings, the next thing you know, it's going to take your creativity to the next level, because now you're going to be able to have that thin depth of field if your lens will support it. Or you're going to be able to push your camera into shooting in low light. You can go out and get those real moody looking pictures. You know, these are all fun things you can do. Or you can go out and take pictures of the Milky Way, which my next video, we're going to talk about that. I took some pictures the other night of the Milky Way, and we're going to discuss how I did that and also how I edited them, because we need to get into the editing on this too. So, like I said, I'll talk today. You know, I'm just sitting here talking to you about it, and I want to try to get y'all motivated to go out and take pictures. I'm going to, hopefully the next time we do one of these videos, will be more out and about, but right now the area I'm in is just not conducive to it. So I look forward to talking to y'all again. Get out and shoot some pictures, enjoy, and be kind to the people around you.